Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today we've got Jessie Pearson-Cheney joining us, and she's going to be answering questions on how we can regulate our nervous system. And she's also going to be giving us some great helpful tips for our healing journey. Okay, Jessie, here's our question. When the body's default setting is hypervigilance, I can relate. How can survivors learn to lower their guard without feeling exposed or unsafe?
Yeah.
This is
so
almost
important.
my question.
Yeah. Yeah. And I relate to it as well because hypervigilance for most of us was our first language. Even before literally as a baby for many of us, you are so aware, you're so open, and you're taking in everything because you can't speak. And so if from early on, you just have to be so hyper aware, it is deeply ingrained. It's how we survived. And so we can't just bully ourselves into relaxing. And I'll tell clients that all the time that, part of what I do with them is to ensure that now even is the right time to be doing the work that I do, because you have to be in a place where your body says, okay, I trust you. I trust that I can actually let this go. And so this is a really great question to talk about because we have to work with our bodies to disassemble the protective measures instead of just going in there and trying to rip out all of the things. It's like, I think about when I was a kid, I would go on vacation with my grandparents. I'd come home and my mom had cleaned my room. And it was so shocking because she doesn't know what's important to me. She doesn't know I was holding on to the gum wrapper, and it can be the same thing for your body. You come in and you just disassemble things without asking, do you still need this? Was this important to you? And so that is what we need to establish with our body when we're trying to heal. So even though, like my mom, we had the best intentions of helping ourselves, you don't know what's important until you actually ask those questions and you ask and you listen. So, for example, just letting yourself have 10 seconds of a pause when you start to feel that impulse, and you can just let yourself start to rebuild some safety. So I was looking into this because I got really curious if 10 seconds is really enough time to even do anything, right? And so biologically, it is. If you let yourself just have 10 seconds and you're affirming and you're breathing or telling yourself it's okay to stop, it's okay to rest, that 10 seconds is enough wiring in your brain to rebuild oh, we went 10 seconds without being hyper alert and tense and having to be on guard. And we survived. All right, we'll put that in the file. And we're going to have to build a big file. But those little micro moments of safety are really a good place to start to unwind that hypervigilance.
Yeah, the hypervigilance was definitely my thing. I would scan every room I would go into. I would scan the house when I would walk in the door. It's a lot. Yeah. And the one thing that I also do is when I feel it rising up in me, and I do take that pause. I talk about the pause. The pause is our superpower, I swear. And then I tell myself, and I'll even say it out loud, I am safe. I am safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm safe.
Yeah.
We're safe. We're fine. And that will help calm me down along with the breathing.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I was also looking into mirror work, like talking to yourself in a mirror. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's biological or conditioning or what, but I feel like, at least in my experience, we are so conditioned to just trust what our brain says. And we have to remember that a lot of times our brain is lying to us and our brain is actually not as smart in some ways as we give it credit for. Because if you're standing in a mirror and you tell yourself you are safe, your body doesn't know the difference between a timeline or a person talking to you. So I'm saying this because you mentioned saying it out loud. And there is so much power in the words we speak. A mentor of mine used to say, don't forget, you're always listening to you. And it's true. So the things you say inside and the things you say outside, you're listening to yourself and you're putting that into the bank of information just as if someone else was telling you. So walking around and saying, I am safe, or this is not a threat. My emotions are not an emergency is very, very validating and soothing to your brain. And there's so much power in those words and in those pauses because it breaks the brain in its little habit. It stops it dead in its tracks, and it gives you a chance to go back into the front of your mind and make rational, logical, current decisions.
Yeah, and this is another case, and I won't say this, I'll say this over and over, where the curiosity is so important that we need to
Yeah.
be we have to understand when we've had this child abuse, and especially for those of us that it started so young, it became part of our foundation. And
Yeah.
we're not going to unwind this overnight. And we need to give ourselves a lot of grace. And we don't need to continue the abuse that was happening to us. And we need to understand this happened to us and we have to unwind it. And we have the power to do it. But part of that is giving ourselves a lot of grace. And like you say, a lot of curiosity and not being so hard. Because I would be really hard on myself. Why did you just do that? That was so stupid. I can't believe you just did that. And just go and just berate myself. I
Mhm.
was just kind of continuing on what the abusers were doing to me. But that's
Yeah.
where it's real important where another thing that you can break in your brain is how you treat yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good
It's so
point. We
important.
often just continue it, as you said it best. We just continue that cycle because it feels familiar and we weren't shown anything else. So we just continue what we know.
Right. So in this case, again, we need to go into it with awareness, pay attention to our body, pay attention to our
Mhm.
thoughts and what's going on. Take a break, take a pause, take some breaths, and show yourself, show your brain that you're safe. If you have to say it, there is a lot of power in words, and I talk about that all the time because so often we keep things in our head, and then as soon as we say it, it's like, well, it wasn't as bad as it sounded in my head, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes
Yeah.
away its power. Even when you allow yourself to be heard with safe people, right? So a lot of these um, hypervigilant things show up in our healthy relationships because we're fighting against a healthy situation. And so there's a lot of power also in letting someone else see what you're processing and how it's happening on the inside. And I always say it's so much better to get things out and look at it because then you can actually see it for what it is. When you keep it all in here, it has so much power over you. And that's what I really loved about learning how to muscle test and ask my body these questions because I kept getting stuck in my own head. And I would think, oh, well, I'm just doing this because I'm afraid or I'm angry or whatever. But when you start to get curious, it's just like when you have a deeper conversation and you ask people questions and you clarify what they're saying, it stops you from just keeping it surface level and your own interpretation. Those deeper questions is really where the clarity comes from. And that's when I start to see women start to have these moments of like, that's what that is. And so opening that dialogue with your body can't happen if you're just living in the realm of like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I'm really mad at myself for doing that. I'm just going to go live in guilt and shame for a minute. No, get curious. Why did I do that? Where is that coming from? What are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to protect me from? There's so much rich information from conflict. And I have a therapist who's really helped me get to that point, especially in my relationship with my partner, of like conflict doesn't mean a bad thing. These are opportunities. This is your body showing you where else you can work. So I can almost kind of get excited now when I have like a trigger because I'm like, ooh, okay, this is the next thing. Why are you here? What are you here for?
What are you here to show me? You know, I talk about this with my husband because he's so sweet. He's my normal. And you know, I've had triggers in front of him. And when we first got together, I had triggers and didn't realize I was being triggered, right? Now I'm fully aware. And he's so sweet because some people would take this wrong, but it's not intended to be a bad thing at all. But if we're if like if I'm not making sense, right? I'm in my trigger, whatever's going on within me that I'm all wound up. He'll say, I just don't understand why you think like that.
Hmm.
And at the first time he said, it, I was like, you know, but then I went, no, he's just asking. He's trying to understand. And so
Yeah.
then I'll explain, this is what's going on in my head. This is what's going on. And I'll tell him, he goes, okay, that makes sense. When
Hmm.
you think like that, that makes complete sense. I
Yeah.
can't tell you that validation, what that has done for me.
Right. Right.
He really
It's the
taught me
same
how to
thing.
treat myself.
Right, exactly. It's the same thing that we do internally, right? So if that situation had happened and he was just like, just stop being like that.
Yeah,
That would have just
stop
been
it.
such a dead end.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that would fire me up. You wanna talk
Yeah.
about being triggered. You say that to
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the
Yeah.
same thing in your body. If you just tried to go through and just say, stop doing that. Stop doing that. You're not going to stop doing it. Like you said,
No.
it's going to get bigger and louder until you listen.
Yeah. It's because here's the thing, and we've said it so many times. When your body is acting up like that, or you've got those thoughts going on, it's your body telling you, hey, 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 hello, there's something going on. You need to
Yep.
stop and you need to listen to me. It's giving you warnings. And
Yep.
and for so long, I shut all that down and just completely ignored it and didn't even hear it,
Mm-hmm.
and I paid the price for it, physically,
Yep.
I really, and
Yeah.
mentally, I paid the price for it. So yeah. So when your body's acting up like that, it's a time to be curious and not judgmental and don't shut it down, right?
Right.
Right. Thank you, Jen.
Do you have any questions for our experts? Let us know in the comments and make sure to subscribe so that you can get more insightful information on trauma healing.